Makers movement in the classroom. So what is Makers movement? The Maker Education movement is based on encouraging students to use project learning or problem-based learning, which involves students in the process of solving real-world problems. The Maker movement involves hands-on, real-life experiences for students to learn new skills and solve real problems. Unlike traditional teaching methods, Maker Education encourages students to learn not just by watching, but by doing. Getting your students involved in the Maker movement benefits them by building soft skills. Maker Education promotes problem solving, collaboration, creativity, and critical thinking, all important skills in today's job market. Improving retention. When students learn in a hands-on environment, they're more likely to remember what they've learned. Inspiring innovation. Students are encouraged to explore open-ended creation, become creators and tinkerers, test out different solutions, and demonstrate new pathways to innovation. This is encouraging productive struggle. For example, if their fence doesn't stand up, they have to work through new processes to get it to stand back up and hold itself there. And lastly, Maker Education encourages meaningful collaboration. So it helps learners understand how to use the STEAM curriculum, where projects are often done in teams. Working collaboratively, students learn how to engage in thoughtful dialogue, delegate tasks, compromise, and listen.
All right, so for our math lesson for our students, we have decided to have them make a fence. And they can do this using popsicle sticks. They can use pipe cleaners. They can use whatever they bring in from home or whatever's laying around in the classroom or whatever that they would like that's reasonable to use for the lesson. So what they're going to do, they're going to build all the sides, and then when they're ready, they're going to actually build their fence. And it should be able to stand up on their own, but like Kelly said, if not, they have to try to find new ways to make their fence stand up. So after they build their fence, they need to find their own area and perimeter, and then they will have like a chart, and they will go around to other students' fences and try to find their area and perimeter, and then they will check with their peers to make sure that they did all of those steps right. And then to build Maker's Movement with the content, it allows students to be creative while focusing on math concepts. It also lets them have some kind of control in the lesson, because students often dislike when the lesson is all lecture, but when you give them the opportunity to take some control, they become much more intrigued with the lesson. The way for students to use more and more resources for information on Maker's Movement is to broaden their spectrum in looking at resources outside of the classroom. This can go from finding pipe cleaners at home or by asking an adult outside of the classroom for tips and ideas about how to efficiently complete the project. Maker's Movement builds TPAC in the classroom because it allows for children to build on the technology aspect by being creative and working more with Maker's Movement, along with researching and using online technology. They can build on the content knowledge by learning about area and perimeter. The pedagogical concepts are building because students are constantly problem solving and finding different strategies to use in case others work or if they fail. And then just a little more about how TPAC and Maker's Movement, they come together to create this great project. The technological knowledge is any kind of technology being used and the student's understanding of it. And what we have found is when you combine two or more technologies in a lesson, students get a better understanding of real-world applications of math. And then two technologies that could be used with this lesson is the Maker's Movement itself and presenting it, because while researching what makes presenting so impactful and in a way to grab attention. So students can research what they need to to do or what they want to do to try to grab their audience's attention when they present it. The content and knowledge is when students or teachers' knowledge of the content of the lesson. So knowing your content is just as important as using the technology itself. Students and teachers need to know what they are doing and how to handle any tools, formulas, or materials that may be used. The pedagogical knowledge is how students and teachers are able to help others learn to their best abilities. By creating a good, solid learning environment and offering advice and knowledge to students or peers, students are able to focus and learn a lot more. They are more able to retain any information given when their surroundings are in a good condition and when their instructor knows what they are teaching. The best instructional technologies that we found are ways to get students' attention and to keep them wanting to learn more. When you're a teacher, you always want your students to want to be in the classroom and to want to learn. And Maker's Movement could build technology and content knowledge when paired with the best instructional strategies, such as engagement, independent, and interactive. Engagement, we just want to keep the students engaged in the lesson actually at hand, and when they work independently, they realize they can do things on their own that they may think that they couldn't do in the past. And then keeping that interactive aspect, that just helps them be able to work with their peers as well as they can.
Yeah, and now I just want us to think back to our lesson with the fence and area and perimeter and that skill of measurement, and then think about how Maker's Movement itself can help us tackle these misconceptions that often come with area, perimeter, and measurement learning with our students. So there are a ton of misconceptions that come about when we are teaching and our students are learning about measurement and area/perimeter. Here I have listed a lot of the misconceptions that we can foresee coming about while our students would be working through this lesson. As you can see, there's a lot about area and measurement, and then some about perimeter and estimation as well. However, using Maker's Ed will help us tackle a lot of these misconceptions as they take on their project step by step. So our goal with this project would be to have it at the end of a lesson. So at the end of our area and perimeter lesson, we would have this as like a culminating activity to kind of assess our students and see where they're at. So by having our students build fences, they will be able to practically see what is making up the pieces that they are measuring for area and perimeter. That will help the students have a greater understanding of both measurement and what area and perimeter actually are. As you can see, that some of the misconceptions with area has to do with not knowing what area actually is, even though they know the formula and things like that. So them actually being able to see these parts will really help. It will also be a great tool to help them learn measurement and how to measure properly if they are still struggling. Since they'll have to practice by measuring their own projects and a partner's, they'll get in a lot of reps. And if we are ensuring that they are doing it correctly by having a partner double check their measurements and by looking at their charts throughout the whole activity, then we will know that they are in fact learning how to measure properly. And I think that's just really something cool about Maker's Movement, is that it can help us tackle all these misconceptions. And then thinking about Maker's Movement as a whole, and how Vanderwall says that worthwhile tasks are so important to have in the classroom. Maker's Movement as a whole is a worthwhile task. In our lesson, we talked through making a fence in order to help our students gain more understanding of area, perimeter, and measurement. However, this is also something that can be engaging for our students because it's giving them creative freedom with how to build their fence if they want to use pipe cleaners or jars or popsicle sticks like Elise did. That is where they'll really be able to get their creative juices flowing and they'll be really engaged. Furthermore, we plan to engage our students and begin where they are by allowing them to kind of take this project as they will. So if we have a student at super high readiness level, and they're ready to challenge their math skills, they could make their fence in the shape of a trapezoid or a pentagon, rather than if a student is at a lower readiness level, they could make their fence in a rectangular shape to help practice that length times width formula a little bit more. But if a student has that down and they're ready to take on the next step, they can start playing around with how to find the area and center of other shapes. By giving students this freedom, they are likely to remain engaged and succeed at this content level. This project will be problematic and engaging through the mathematics because they will be doing math the entire time. The students will have to start by making sure they have enough room to build their fence on their desk, enough materials to complete their project, and then after creating their fence, they'll go through the process of measurement and comparing / working with a partner, which will just always have their math brains going. This will also demand higher level thinking by making the students see how this is a real world example of how area and perimeter are used, because people are building fences all the time, and there's so many things that go into that in the real world. And this will also just put them to work through the creative thinking processes in their brains. So as a whole, we can see how the Makers movement is a great technology to use in the classroom for real world experiences and just growing the content knowledge of all students, and it's great for all age levels.